The Alfie Whattam podcast.
First thing I wanted to talk about and show you today is Meta have partnered up with Ray-Ban. This has been happening for a little while now. However, the product hadn't quite caught on as much as some people had hoped. But from speaking with some contacts I know high up at Meta, this is something that they're going to be really trying to push over in 2023, largely because VR has obviously not really, gone to plan in terms of the mass adoption. So they're starting to see AR as the route to VR, which makes sense. It's less intrusive. It's a little bit easier. I'm already wearing glasses. If I could just have a little, ping of notifications, directions, etc., that would be very, very cool. But Meta's product and entry into this space. Let me show you a quick clip of what they've released. It's been out for a little while, like I say, but they're going to start to push it a lot more this year. And then we'll have a chat about what you think, if it's good, if it's bad, if it's anything in between. If you're listening on audio, now is the time to turn on video to watch the clip. There we have a lady walking down the street with some cool sunglasses on, and then you can just tap a little button and it will take a picture of them instantly on your stories. I believe that's why they're called the Meta Stories for Instagram. That's the stories. It's quite spontaneous. Bunch of skateboarders. I don't see that happening day to day, but you can do video as well. So this is just video and also audio there, so she can talk using Siri or whatever the Meta version is, and then that will obviously start recording. So there's no directions, there's no text alerts popping up. It's not quite the vision of Google Glass, what they all hoped that to be, a long time ago. This is a little bit more basic, but it's starting to become mainstream. AR is not something that we're going to be talking about as an idea. It's now something that we're going to be talking about as a reality. Some of the biggest tech companies in the world are releasing actual hardware and products around this. What are your takes on this? Do you think this is a flop? If it's something that's quite interesting and could be built upon to make it even better? Andy, what's your point of view?
Glad you started with me. I was hoping to coin off everyone else's opinion. As you mentioned, Google Glass didn't exactly land well. Wasn't a success. I kind of feel that there's probably space for it in the market that raises lots of privacy issues. We've seen people fail that are probably bigger than Ray-Ban and Meta combined. So I think they've probably got their work cut out. And the subject of AR, like that no doubt will become part of our day-to-day lives. I think when you look at the future of driverless cars and what the 25th hour, as it's been dubbed back, is the hour we spend, or a lot of people spend driving, what that could be used for from an entertainment perspective. Sure. I think AR could be really interesting in that space. But personal wearables, and I don't know, I'd be interested to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite primitive at the moment, but maybe that's enough for people to want to use it. I mean, you already take pictures, you already take videos. If you could just beep and then it's done, then more convenient, isn't it? And that sort of thing. Jess, what do you think when you see the Meta Ray-Ban stories?
I quite like this idea. I think there's a really big space for content creators and influencers right now, especially within Meta. You've got all the people who do reels and live videos and stuff like that, and it's a big way people are making money at the moment. So if people know they can make more money from, having this wearable, and they can just record their daily lives as they go about and, get more followers, gain, a bigger audience, I think a lot of influencers and content creators may potentially be quite interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, from a content creation perspective, it's like the perfect tool. You don't have to carry around a camera. It's just always on your face, and you just press a button or say the magic words, and then boom, someone's on video, which might be a bad thing as well if you think about it, but we can talk about that. What's your take, Mike, when you see these glasses?
Kind of takes me back to my childhood, so it's almost like a spy gadget kind of thing, like camera on your face. It's an interesting one. I didn't really think of it from the kind of creator kind of perspective. I was kind of just thinking along the lines of it's not really something that I personally use myself. Sure. But I'm kind of just use my phone for taking videos and that kind of thing. I think the main thing for me it's around the privacy thing, or just people being aware that other people are wearing these kind of wearables and that kind of thing. And I think they've probably got a niche element within the market, because I've done stuff with the police in the past, and I think these kind of wearables are quite useful, because obviously they wear body cams and that kind of thing. I'm just thinking, could it provide them with almost like a stepping stone to using this technology for something a bit more I don't know, some interesting purposes. Don't really know.
It's a good point about the privacy concern. So the way that they've addressed this is they've got a little light on it.
Yeah.
However, you can very easily just take a Sharpie and get rid of that if you wanted to. So we could have a world very soon where everyone's filming each other and taking pictures of each other and live streaming everything, and nobody's of the wiser that it's happening. And these aren't just sunglasses. You can get prescription versions of these as well, I believe. Right now, it probably is a bit obvious. You've got cameras and that sort of thing, but as they get smaller and smaller and smaller and less invasive, then the privacy issue might become more apparent. Do you think, Jess, if we start with yourself, do you think there's a risk, a concern of this backfiring if people are videoing each other without them knowing about it, or do you think that might just be like a small situation?
Yeah, it's a funny one, because obviously if you're using this wearable, you're going to be potentially videoing every single thing. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work with memory and stuff like that, but you're potentially walking around and videoing everything you see, whereas when someone's videoing on their phone, it's kind of a bit more obvious. If you don't want to be in a shot, you move out the way. So yeah, potentially there could be a lot of concerns, I guess, raised by people who aren't, aware of what content creation is, or, not really into that kind of stuff, that, could raise some potential. Yeah, I mean, it's like, imagine if you were walking around with your phone filming everything. Like, most people would be like, no, I don't want that. But with this, it's, if you have the thing blacked out, it's almost impossible to see. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. What do you think, Andy, when it comes to the privacy side of it?
I think privacy is all about consent, and when you're an adult and you're a consenting adult, it's fine. But if you're a child, then there's concerns raised there, and the use of these in schools or in gyms or in locker rooms or changing rooms, I think will raise serious concerns for a lot of people.
That'll be a headline, won't it, in like a few months? Like,
Guarantee it.
It's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, what about like where this goes? Because I don't know if I would get these right now. They're a little bit basic for me, but when you start adding Google Maps on these, and it has a little arrow telling you where to go, you get a little text message, it pops up, you've got the time in the corner, you've got the weather in the corner, it's going to rain, you get a call, you can do all different types of things. Basically the vision of Google Glass. When that becomes a thing, so we're starting to head in that direction. That tech was way too early, obviously, but when we start getting to the point where that is now a thing, could you see this becoming mainstream, changing the world? We went from computers to laptops to iPads and phones to watches, and then they'll be on our face, and then who knows, inside us with the Neuralink at some point. But prior to that, do you see this becoming like a mainstream technology which everybody is using, like a phone perhaps? What do you think, Mike, if you had to place a bet?
I wouldn't say everybody. I feel like it's got its kind of niche purpose. Like,
sure.
I think like one of the main things for me is around like the safety element of it as well. So like, obviously, I imagine like the clever people behind these bits of technology are thinking about this like quite a lot. But it's around like if you're kind of displaying all that information on like your glasses and stuff, making sure that people are aware of the surroundings. Because like you look at like Google Maps, where they've got like the live capability where you can point around and see your surroundings and that kind of thing. And if I remember rightly, they kind of like disable that feature if you are moving, to make sure that you're just not walking out into a road because you're too focused on like the screen. Point. And I think there's definitely elements of like the kind of like the safety element there of the users. But as I say, I think it's definitely got like a kind of like niche within the place, and it's probably not for everybody. I wouldn't like say it's something that people would adopt as sort of ubiquitously as like the mobiles and that kind of thing.
Okay, so you don't think it will replace the phone, but you think a
no,
large percentage of people will still go for it. But
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, what do you think, Jess?
I think a big advantage of this a big selling point of this is going to be the convenience of it. Like when you go on holiday, not a lot of people want to be carrying their phones around now, and you're afraid when you're in new places, you don't want your phone snatched, you don't want to lose your phone somewhere. So if you're wearing something that's physically attached to you, there's a lot less likeliness that you're going to lose this object or someone's going to take it from you. So potentially it could be a really good selling point of the convenience. Yeah,
and people will always pay for convenience, won't they? Like that's why Uber Eats, Deliveroo, etc. exist. I mean, you can make that food yourself, or you can press a button and it's there. So, and from your side, Andy, do you see this becoming mainstream worldwide, or do you think it will stay small?
I think there's a niche use cases for it. The input's an interesting point. You heard this when voice came out, and everyone was like, "Voice is going to change the world." But then you don't hear many people talking to themselves in their phone because you still not socially acceptable. It's a little bit weird, right? I'm sure that people would do. And it'll be interesting to see how input works into this, whether voice is enabled on it. It'll be voice commands to start off with. One interesting use case, though, I do think that is really worth highlighting is probably the accessibility side of it. So with Google Maps, and if you're visually impaired, finding directions used to be impossible. Now you can follow directions. You can listen to the phone. It says turn left, turn right. It helps you follow where you're going. Even with Street View, you can get an AI description of what the camera's looking at. I think this is could be really open up the accessibility market for people. Could have a lot of use cases there.
Which is like a massive thing, which I think more companies are going to be focusing on this year and beyond, because a lot of the time companies have gone, look, that's such a small part of the market, we're just not going to do anything about it. But they've come to realize that even if it just does impact a small-ish group of people, that can also have an impact on the other customers as well. An example being it reading out, because I listen to that, even I might be lazy or something, but I use Siri 20-30 times a day or something, and I often use it more in a day than I do my thumbs when typing and stuff, which is quite interesting. I guess the price for these, if we had to go around, they're not crazy, but they're not cheap either. If you had to ballpark, what would you say, Andy?
$350.
Okay. What would you say?
I'm going to say about $2,000.
$2,000. Okay, you think they're very pricey?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
I think they're probably like $299.
$299. Okay. You two are very close. It's they're £300. Okay. So when they first were released, I believe when they were in the early days, they were a lot more money than that. So you were more accurate there, Jess. But the Google Glass isn't actually dead. They've just got now an enterprise edition for Google Glass, and those are closer to that price point that you mentioned there. I think that the enterprise ones are used for, let's say you work in a warehouse and you have a list of tasks that's always there, showing you what to do. Whereas they're not very pretty, the Google Glass ones. Whereas these are Ray-Bans, they're cool. Everyone likes to wear that sort of thing. But anyway, AR, something definitely to focus on a lot more for this year, and only going to continue to accelerate and innovate and get smaller and bigger. And I think what's going to be really, really interesting is when we start to get VR on something this small, because right now VR is so clunky and big and I don't even tried an Oculus or whatever, but it's like having a huge computer strapped to your face. But when you've got that capability inside something this thin, this small, then that's when the world changes, basically.
Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If you want to see more like this, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.